Oftentimes, but not often enough, a character just speaks to me, like a Winter Soldierian code phrase or a secret handshake I never knew I learned. I'll come across a character in some media and be compelled to know just a little bit more about them, to integrate whatever makes them special into my mind, or even a tattoo. A character that might come up when I see a poll or when I'm watching something similar. Watching some One Night at Flumpty's gameplay and having almost zero knowledge of the game before doing so, over the course of the 3 games I couldn't help but attach to Grunkfuss the Clown, paying attention to his patterns and being intrigued by his mannerisms. He has so much patience for you, appearing in the first game only after some time has passed before slowly approaching you. He has an actual patience meter in the second game and only asks that you not take pictures of him in the third one, even though he is just trying to kill you like the rest of them. Fussy being so mild-mannered about it and showing a range of emotions endeared me to him quite so when he's slaughtered before Flumpty Night, it's like Lilith Clay all over again. Fuck Blam though, I was happy to see his shit kicked in. We turn to Deathloop, Arcane's Miles Morales if Death of the Outsider didn't exist. Dishonored but James Bond as a roguelike sleuth 'em up kinda, where you find clues and follow trails but you don't have to. You are Colt 45, the one person not okay with immortality on the Isle, full of people who would rather you take one in the head for the team. The whole rock is on the lookout for just you, knowing that you're superpowering around trying to reboot natural order. To do that, you must take down a business of nerds called the Eon Program, from which you get your superpowers from. The Visionaries are an interesting bunch of villains, varied in abilities and motive aside from the one they all share, a fear of death and being batshit insane. A think tank basically. The Visionaries have become so invested in living that they forget the point of it and seek to create a deathless day that just repeats and repeats for about 50 years. Enter Fia Zibaraska, the draw 4 in a deck full of wildcards. With a look inspired by Suzanne Charney, Fia is the coked out creative crazy person to all the rest of the stereotypes, the spoiled heiress in charge of supplying Blackreef and a troubled artist. She does drugs all the time, so many drugs in fact that she retains at least some of her memories across loops, a main character privilege. Each of the Visionaries were given slabs, chunks of metal that imbue the user with superpowers, and so Fia was given Alex Summers to match her unstable nature. Havoc is a rage mode that gives the user super strength and invulnerability for some time. It's a lovely power for the narrative. It's the reason Fia hits like a truck and grants this ruby red flame on. It was nice seeing classic superpowers at least hinted to by Arcane, who like to stick to all the dweeb powers like invisibility and Eye of Newton shit and fucking Domino again. Havoc basically turns Fia into this scary ass firecracker who turns into Ruby Sunspot whenever she gets angry. As I said, this is all narrative though. In practice, you just get some time to dwell on the enemies and not pay for it. First person games never want to let you lift things over your head and just throw them. Of the Visionaries, I decided to go after Fifi first, knowing that who you do and don't go after just narrows the path for you later on. You find Fia in her military base turned studio fractured image, getting high and holding court with her visions and thoughts. Amongst the paint fumes and substances, she likes to disassociate, hoping that the quiet silence of war and death found in the military base will bring her dreams back. She planned on turning her brain into a fried egg on the first day, and so when you find her, she is already blitzed to Betsy.
Dropping like flies. Every night, someone else's time is up. Friends, acquaintances, and wenchies. They'll go tonight, but come tomorrow in paradise.
And Deathloop could have been a harder game, and so the fight with Fia isn't as tough as the story would suggest. She can just take a few more bullets a minute than she normally would, and if you catch her at the right time, you can stab her up before she gets her summers on. That's not to say you won't die, but when you do, it'll be your fault. Fuck around and find out what's attached to her arm, the detonator to the unstable reactor found in the fractured image. She'll set it to blow the second she finds out you're there, because unlike her other visionary companions, she doesn't delude herself into thinking thinking a fight is what she can win. Cole was made the head of security for a reason, so even with her invulnerability, Fia blows the reactor because that's how you level the playing field with someone who can respawn all the respawns. It doesn't work like ever, but everyone else's choice for dealing with Cole seems to be dudes and more dudes. Speaking of companions, Fia is breaking a cardinal sin of the loop. Literally do not have sex with each other, at least other visionaries. You can bring anyone you want with you and do anything with or to them, but just not your fellow super dork, and thus the rules are broken. Charlie Montague, half-brain game designer to the stars, who comes across like Todd Howard with John Romero's brain thrust back in time to be Charlie.
I'm Charlie fucking Montague. If you like the real world, you wouldn't be here, right?
Like Romeo and Juliet before them, the two find themselves in love, knowing that the death of either one of them destabilizes this entire nirvana that they've been going on and on about, which is crazy, wanting to bone so bad that you put the project of the century at risk. If these two never canoodle, then you never have any other way of killing all the visionaries at once, so when you infiltrate their hideaway to see Char getting abused, it's like you're jeopardizing this entire operation for this?
Lights so far, far away. On a trip, on a long holiday. Take a drive downtown. 'Cause you're high. I want to be there. You had Frank write that song for me. You knew my deal.
I wrote that song. You just changed chord progression.
Charlie, we're
Here, Fia taunts her lover boy with the lyrics of a song that he wrote for her that Charlie alleges Frank stole from him. Titled Ode to Somewhere, you can actually hear it playing sometimes when visiting Freestad Rock.
City lights so far away, on a trip or a long holiday.
Fia taunts him with the song as a way of asking him why he was so cool with her being a druggie in the honeymoon phase. 'Cause you're high, I wanna be there, he says. Charlie's thing is that maybe, just maybe, if she wasn't fried every second that he's with her, she wouldn't keep making fun of him for removing half of his brain and making it a games master for some stupid ass game, which apparently she encouraged.
and you're hot-brained.
You told me, encouraged me to do it. You said it would be addition to subtraction.
And you listened to me.
Now, he know damn well he shouldn't have asked Kate from Fallout 4 what he should do with his brain. That's a Sheen level decision for such a quote-unquote visionary. Feezy would also tell Charlie to stop being such a pussy when they're drowning, so maybe he has a fetish for being manhandled by the super strong.
At least die like a man.
The visionaries are all a dastardly kind of crazy, with Borderlands level extravagance and Mr. Brooks level callousness. Dive into their deeds and behaviors, and I'm not sure if the feelings they have about their atrocities speak louder than the atrocities themselves. Across time and space they transgress even. Deathloop's writing deserves mention for being able to carry the weight of the lore in gameplay sometimes. Sometimes I really do get caught up feeling like a super spy turned meta man, while other times I'm just Blacko Atano. Watching Fia in her private times in between pumpkin carvings feels like watching Patricia Tanis just huffing and musing. As art director of the Eon program, Fia is to blame for all the color everywhere, and she designed the mask that the Eternalists use. She's notably more visionary than her peers, literally so with her visions. She controls what does and doesn't get supplied, commands an entire reactor and military base, breaks loop-defying rules, and is so ahead of her time that a group of super geniuses chose her to be in charge of the aesthetic, despite or maybe because of the drug use. And with the only slab geared for an all-out brawl, Fia packs more than enough muscle to get her way all the time. She's more bucks with way more bucks, Molly Hayes if she stayed with the family, and a looser, more narcotic Jekyll and Hyde, and I think she's perfect. I love characters who just can't sit still in the background, and even though they're not the main character, they're not the main antagonist, they still are special amongst the special people. With Deathloop in the rear view and not on PS4 for some reason, I hope we can get a second one. I encourage you to play it slowly and absorb the details of the game. I found myself really getting caught up with the gameplay and letting a lot of the more intricate stuff pass me by. The game is screaming for some Sly Cooper treatment with themed maps and boss battles. The lore is so interconnected and full of answers if you want them that upping the scale would do it some good if it doesn't crumble under the weight. More powers, more visionaries, and more of that sweet writing is way past due. More Fia would be a tall order, though I wish they gave her a standalone or something. I'd support a Kickstarter for a Deathloop animated series if that meant more Zebra Roscoe was on the way. Jeremy Lee, her voice actor, seems to have a thing or two for voicing unrelenting monsters, having also voiced Chiffon Fairchild of Freezing fame. She voiced Asuna too, but I have way too many mixed feelings about SAO to be happy about that. Blueface and Krishan would look adorable as Fia and Charlie in a little couple's costume, but Jonathan is over there dealing with that baby mom of his, talking about some goddamn Stewie. Krishan's crazy ass would just look delightful in that ruby red.